I'm Corbett Wall with DB Auction, here with your feeder flash for Friday, October the 23rd, brought to you in part by Zactran. Separation anxiety, temperature swings, and relocation open the gate to bovine respiratory disease. Slam it shut with Zactran. Remember to observe your 35-day withdrawal period after treatment. For more information, go to Zactran.com or visit with your BI representative. Had a cattle collapse this week. It started out first thing on Monday with the futures being down, and doesn't that sound like kind of an oxymoron? It all started with the futures, but that's just what this industry's turned into. Your futures market, which is a prognosticator of out front, it goes down, and then your current market just crashes. And the board through the week, of course it was down hard early, but through the week lost $4.50 to $6 on most nearby contracts, both live cattle and feeder cattle contracts. And then your cash market just crumbled. I tell you what, fats $3 to $4 lower for sure, maybe spots $5 lower. Your feeder cattle market, both calves and bigger feeding cattle, and most of those aren't true yearlings. The true yearlings, very few of those still left. They probably weren't down quite that much, but sure, $6, $8, $10 lower on your cash markets, and you know that's a pretty tough deal. You know, $70 or $80 a head. That's quite a hit whenever you're not expecting that. But it's just it's so volatile right now, and we've got our grains that are jumping back and forth. People are starting to get worried about feed costs, which that's always been a big input in the cattle business, but we haven't really worried about that all that much for the last few years. So hard to really see that coming right during the face of harvest. You know, you don't normally see your grains spiking right during a big bumper crop harvest, especially when you're going through it like a buzzsaw, and the temperatures and conditions have been perfect for that. But just been a rough week all around. We got a cattle on feed report coming out here on Friday. I went through it on our last visit. I tell you what, you're going to hear the numbers come in. I tell you what we need. We need an inventory number under 103. We need a placement number under 102. And you're thinking that doesn't give us a whole lot of room. I realize that. It does not, especially when we know how big our numbers are on feed. And we know there's been a lot of cattle moving. And I just fear that this could be a pretty bearish cattle on feed report, and man, we cannot stand that after everything that's hit the cattle market here lately. But we also need a marketing number over 106, so there's another tall order. So it's going to be tough for this cattle on feed report to be anything but bearish, but we're going to hope for the best on it. Hope you guys watch the debate on Thursday night. I want to encourage everybody to get out and vote. I hope you vote the right way. I think you saw over the debate that if Biden gets in, he will completely destroy the oil and gas industry. I know that's a way that a lot of you ranchers keep things afloat right there. And you can also just assume that if he gets in, he's going to be heavily influenced by his running mate, and she's heavily influenced by the supporters of the Green New Deal, which calls for getting rid of confined animal feeding operations, i.e. feedlots. What do you think that would do to this industry if we got rid of our feedlots and not just cattle, but hogs and chickens and everything? But I'm not sure we have a place to free range everything and still feed the masses and have any kind of an export demand at all. But you see the guys way out west, they also understand that the left's approach to managing our forests and our grazing lands is not the best either. We've got to manage those and not just let them grow up with undergrowth fuel, and that's what causes these fires, and they're trying to cause the fires on global warming, and I think it's the other way around. Probably, if you guys even can hang your hat on global warming. But you know, here a couple weeks ago I was out in Fallon, Nevada, and had a big Trump rally at a cattle auction out there. and big support there with Don Jr. on hand, and you just don't see the Democrats really embracing agriculture at all. They like to say that they're for the farmer, but they don't really have the connection there like the Republican side does. I want to give a shout out to my friends at Tulare County Stockyard out in California. I don't know if you guys have seen the stories or not, but they've had two big haystack sign burnt down in the last several weeks. They burnt the first one down, they put it right back up and got burnt down again. And I think we're not sure whether it was Antifa or BLM or which one of the hate groups that are going to support Biden did that burning down. But I guarantee you it wasn't a red-blooded flag-loving American out there. But Tulare was having an event here with Devin Nunes out there with their congressman, and the only one that they really got that will fight for them in the ag community. But tell you what, guys, you just need to think about what it's going to do if we don't see if we don't get Trump back in. Because I tell you what, this leftist agenda, I'm not sure how you guys are going to pull your gooseneck with an electric car. I don't know how we're going to move cattle around if we don't have internal combustion engines with a lot of horsepower to get stuff moved around. I just can't imagine what it's going to be like, and I'm not sure how you guys can either. But just think about it, but definitely get out there and vote whichever way you think you need to go. But let's talk about the board for Thursday. October live cattle futures down 32 cents, 103.32. December was down $1.10 at 103.47. You go on out from there, and they were down 30 cents to down 130. So started the week on a downer, late in the week on a downer. Probably be a little profit taken on Friday here, and could see a little bitty bounce coming back. But I tell you what, it's a tough deal. Feeder cattle, October feeder cattle down 57 cents at 133.82. November down 72 cents at 130.42. Out front on your feeder cattle contracts down 70 cents to down $1.05. Your December hogs were down big. You remember on Monday your hogs were up big when the cattle were down big. Well, now late in the week their hogs are down even worse. They were down $3 at 66.20, which equates to a $50 live hog. But nobody really cares what a live hog's worth anymore, because nobody raises them anymore. If we don't get something done about our trade, if we don't get a minimum cash requirement done, if we don't get this Cattle Market Transparency Act done that Deb Fisher has put up and Vicky Hartzler has put up in the House, we are in big trouble, and we might as well go right with the hogs. Can you imagine a time where you wouldn't care what your fat cattle market is? Well, that's where your hog producers are at. They're all under contract. They're not getting paid on that. They don't really care. And that's something to kind of warn you guys about turning everything to addressed price. Our cash live market is what we kind of equate to, and that's what most of your cattle people understand. And the more we start transferring things over to addressed type market like the hogs have, the least control we have on it. But fat cattle trade through Thursday, 68,800 head, or actually that was through Wednesday, 68,800 head in your 5-area feeding region. Didn't really have much trade to speak of on Thursday, but it's going to be a decent movement. It doesn't appear that we're going to get anywhere close to 100,000 head in your 5-area feeding region, which that's what I usually consider to be robust trade. Now, what NCBA thinks is robust trade on this kind of a joke of a 75% deal, that's quite a bit less. But let's look at what little trade we had on Thursday. Iowa had 800 head confirmed from 103 to 104.5, and some 164 dressed. Nebraska, 3,200 head from 103 to 105 live, didn't have any dressed. Kansas, 400 head at 105. Remember, they traded at 106 earlier in the week, so we lost ground during the week too, but for the most part, your fat cattle sells $3 to $4 lower. Texas didn't sell anything. Of course, they had sold more than any other area early in the week, as you saw those corporate feeders dive in for the basis, and like I've said before, your hedged up feeders, especially your corporate feeders, don't really care what the market is. It's all about the basis. It's just a paper trade for them. They're not all that concerned with what the feeder cattle cost or the fat cattle cost. It's just a paper trade, and they're going to hedge all those cattle to their gills anyway, and they would just about as soon have a $2 or $3 basis as they would anything. But box beef cutout values, a smidge higher here late in the week, but not much. They've still been kind of down too, and really got a feel for those poor packers. They're probably not making much over $400 or $500 a head. But choice cuts 208.86, up 39 cents for Thursday afternoon. Selects 190.108, up 17 cents. Your slaughter so far for the week through Thursday, 480,000, up 4,000 from the previous week, up 8,000 from the same week a year ago. We have started making some ground, having larger slaughters or harvests than we have a year ago. But I tell you what, we're not getting a handle on these weights of big cattle. Of course, your packers want these cattle that are pretty heavy right now, and they've kind of led guys into making them. But our actual slaughter data for the week ending October the 10th come out with your average dressed steer weight 928 pounds, 4 pounds bigger than the previous report. And if you guys are like me, you can remember it hadn't been that long ago. You had penalties over 950, and now we've got the average dressed steer weight all the way up at 928 pounds. Man, that's a monster. But let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DV auction late in the day on Thursday at 132.57. That was down $1.23, and it's just going away so fast you can't hardly keep up with it. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index is 135.53, and I think you guys know how elevated that is. With all these 7-weight calves in there pulling this index down, and it was down about $2.50 compared to the previous release, but it's just trying to chase down your real-time index, which is always up to date and current. You guys need to keep track of that. Whenever we finally get to a stopping point, you'll be able to see that a day or so earlier on your real-time index when it starts to shore up a little bit, and then you'll know that your CME index that trails in behind is going to start to shore up too. Let's talk about your big sales on Thursday. Winter livestock, Pratt, Kansas, Steve Stratford and the gang there, 2,500 head for the Thursday sale. And you remember they had a calf special on Monday with a pretty darn good run, so they're marketing a lot of cattle through there. But I tell you what, they're not immune to the tough trends, and it's just that way everywhere. And we're not going to blame any sale barn for having a lower market. The market's just lower, but I do have to kind of keep you guys abreast what is going on. Your feeders in Pratt, $6 to $8 lower, with spots as much as $10 lower. So that's similar to what El Reno was on Wednesday, similar to what your early week sales were too. But still selling some yearling type cattle pretty darn good there. And you look at this top quote out of Pratt, 60 head of steers weighed 816 pounds at 140.75. Farmers and Ranchers Livestock, Salina, Kansas, 1,900 head there. Feeder steers $4 to $7 lower. Feeder heifers $6 to $10 lower. It's just tough all over. But you talk about a market, and this market's in south central Missouri, mid-Missouri stockyards in Lebanon, Missouri. I tell you what, that part of the state in Missouri, and I know a lot about auction markets and cattle marketing, livestock marketing in general in Missouri, because that was my business for 18 years or so, or sure 16 years there in Missouri. But there's a sale barn. Every little town's got a sale barn, and this time of year they're all getting pretty good numbers. And they're famous for having a lot of calves that are unweaned and no shots. It's easy to be a producer in the part of the country where they've got plentiful grass. I know a lot of it's fescue and you have to manage that, but you compare that to some other parts of the country where they're dry all the time and barely have anything for those cattle to eat. It's a fairly easy deal there, and you can even get some leases on some ground that's pretty darn reasonable, you know, because people are keeping that land for an investment. But you do see this time of year, you see a lot of calves selling well off of the market. But if you get the right kind in there, and I mean the kind, good calves in there, and they've been treated right, and you get them in bigger strings and they've got a reputation behind them, they'll still sell. Look at this quote out of Mid-Missouri Stockyards there outside Lebanon. 76 head, 465-pound steer calves bring $169. I tell you what, you might see some higher ones on some reputation ranch strings out west, but for that part of the country, that's a hell of a quote. How about another big quote on a long string of cattle over in the southeast corner of Nebraska? 3 state stockyards, Falls City, Nebraska. The Witt brothers there, they had the Hermish cattle in there. They always sell them in big long strings, and you got to give those people credit for putting them up for bids there and getting a true price discovery on them. But Hermish cattle out of Kelly, Kansas, they sold 372 head, 821-pound backgrounded steers at $136.10. And man, you got to feel for those folks because normally their timing's just right, but the timing, I tell you what, it gets even the professionals out there. Who would have saw this coming? Nobody would have saw that coming. Just a week ago, those cattle would have sure brought 142 or maybe a pinch better, and just from 1 week's timing. And I tell you what, the volatility that we get sometimes in this business is just enough to kill you. But I want to talk about a sale barn that I've never talked about before on here, but we're going to start talking about them a lot more because we're getting their information automated into us here, and they've got a premium type sale, and it just goes for you auctions that would like to be part of Cattle Market Central, be quoted here on the feeder flash pretty regular, and maybe you've tried to do it before and your clerking system just seems to not work. The clerking systems will work if you will get onto them and tell them that you want it to work. Most of you guys are paying a maintenance fee for your clerical systems, you sell barns there. It's their job to serve you. And I tell you what, Belle Fourche, South Dakota, they decided to get on theirs and make it work. And poof, all of a sudden it starts working and working very well. But Belle Fourche Livestock Market, that's another sale barn that is not reported by Federal State Market News Service. I realize they can't report them all, but guess what? We can. So Belle Fourche had 5,800 head at a big sale on Thursday. And look at this market report out of there. Well tested in most all of your weight groups there, especially on your calf groups there. Look on the steer calves, 791 head of the 4-weight steers in Belle Fourche. They averaged 449 at 171.73. Over 2,000 head of 5-weight steers in that sale barn in one day. That'd be a heck of a run in most places. They over 2,000 head of 5-weight steers, and they would have all been the very top kind. Average 536 at 152.41. On some heifers, 926 head of 4-weight heifers, average 458 at 142.64. 737 head of the 5-weight heifers, average 544 at 137.94. Couple of individual quotes out of Belle Fourche. 106 head of 515-pound steer calves bring 163.75, and 65 head of 904-pound yearling steers bring $140 even. And that's your feeder flash for Friday.